Well, we know that the Johnson County Commission has gotten a lot of attention in this town over the last couple of weeks, and a lot of it is tied to what happened at I-35 and 75th Street, where they wanted to make that La Quinta Inn and Suites a low-barrier homeless shelter. And the county commission wanted to make that happen. They had voted to make that happen, and through the grassroots of folks in Lenexa, that got turned down. Took a lot of grassroots efforts, but it happened. And this goes to show you how who your county commissioners are can make a very big difference. One of the guys who wants to be part of the change in the county commission is Mark Hamill. He is running in the 2nd District, which is Shawnee and bulk of Lenexa. He's currently a Johnson County Community College trustee. He got elected to that spot 3 years ago. Mark, pull that mic up nice and close. Good morning. Thanks for being here on KCMO.
Hey, thanks for having me.
So take me through just what you see from this county commission that made you want to throw your hat into the ring and go up against Jeff Myers in that 2nd District.
Well, I think like a lot of people, I've experienced my property taxes going up quite a bit. And I'll say things feel like they changed a lot in the last few years in particular. And I've, you kind of feel alone on this, trying to figure out how are you going to fix anything and make the changes you want. And I'll say kind of the little bit longer version, I just kind of volunteered for some people I thought might be able to help. And while I, started volunteering over the last few years, somebody said, well, why don't you try running? And I was like, I can't do that. I'm a nobody. And one of the campaign managers says, that's who we need. We need just average people to go out there and do something. And obviously that means a lot of the listeners here that are probably feeling the same way I am about just kind of fed up and tired with some of the things and people not listening. And I'll encourage them to get out and do as much as they possibly can. There's a lot that can be done by average everyday citizens like myself. But like I'm saying, I'm knocking doors at apartments, McMansions, mansions, regular houses, duplexes, quadplexes. And a lot of people, the vast majority, are fed up with their property taxes going up, and they're not really receiving the benefits for it. And it's going up way faster than inflation. We're blowing it out of the water. So one of the most interesting numbers over the last 4 years since Jeff Myers, the guy I'm running against, has been in office, the budget went from $1.2 billion to $1.8 billion in 4 years.
The county budget in Johnson County went from 50% increase in 4 years for the county budget.
Yeah, it's actually 47, but yes, it's right there next to 50. And it's extraordinary. It's massive. And you think about the 150 years of Johnson County, and it took us that long to get to 1.2 billion, and now we're at 1.8, and it's actually 1.85.
Wow.
And it's growing and growing and growing. And inflation is maybe around 20%, over the 4 years. Population has only gone up 2%. There is no excuse for this kind of spending. And they're not even doing the things we should be focusing on. And I believe our infrastructure, our water drainage, things like that, are somewhat being neglected. I'm not saying completely, but I think we could do better. And those are the things we should be focusing on: public safety, EMS, infrastructure. And instead we're doing pet projects, we're doing corporate welfare, we're getting involved in DEI in places. And that's one of my issues is, Jeff Myers is head of the DEI committee. That's his pet project.
What does that mean? What is the guy on the county commission doing as a head of the DEI committee? And what's the white guy doing as the head of the DEI committee anyway, if you're going to have one? What is the purpose of any of this?
So, I do believe, I know there's a lot of people that are fans of it, that they're coming from a good place. And we all want, most of us in our age group at least grew up with Martin Luther King, and there's probably a lot of people's heroes out there like my own. And it's so impressive that somebody could be Christ-like in moments of their life. And, we all wish we could do those kind of things in our life. And he loved people that hated him, and he changed hearts and minds for not only here in our country, but across the world. And it's beautiful. And I love equality, and this being America, we are the land of opportunity. And when you use those up, let's find people even more opportunities. And when they use those up, let's give them some more opportunities.
Well, the land of equal opportunity, of course, is different from the land of equal outcome.
Exactly, and that's where it comes in. And they use these beautiful words of diversity and inclusion that are beautiful words when used correctly, but they're hiding equity in there, and they're trying to confuse people thinking equity is the same thing as equality. And so one of my things I've worked on as a trustee was when they were opening the office of DEI for the college. I said, you know what? If we want to talk about diversity, equality, and inclusion, I'm open to this, and I would love to have that conversation, and you could probably get my vote on this. But they were saying no. They all 6-1 said no. We want equal outcomes. That's what they said they wanted. And so I was like, I have to say no. I want people to feel like they belong and feel welcoming. I think Johnson County has been that for so many years. I mean, I'm a fifth generation Kansan, so I love Kansas. Just to be said, I'm actually born on Kansas Day. When I learned that when I was like in preschool,
is that right?
And so
that's a great little fun fact for you, right?
It makes me love Kansas even more. It has a bigger tie to it. And then the history of bleeding Kansas and the things that people did for other people across this country. And we fought the Civil War for 10 years before anybody else. I take a lot of pride in being here in Kansas and being involved in the history of it. But this is not what they're doing. Equity is not the same thing as freedom and equality or equity. Yeah.
So Mark Hamill is here. He's running for Johnson County Commission, District 2 against Jeff Myers. When you go, and you've been going all over the district and you're talking to people, obviously taxes are a big part of what people are struggling with. What about some of the drama recently around the proposed low-barrier homeless shelter at 35 and 95th Street? When you look at that and that project, where were you falling on that, and what were you hearing about that as well?
Yeah, so this obviously kept growing and growing, getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and we had a lot of people out there, this average everyday people that were getting involved and spreading the word, because most of us in the county are too busy. We barely keep up with federal politics, and we usually leave the local, to somebody else. And so we had a lot of people that really drove this, just grassroots type of stuff that really made a big difference. Mike Feller is one of the guys. I'll just name his name, but there was a lot of other ones that really did a lot of work to bring attention to the scenario. When I heard about it, I actually did some research and went to Lawrence and talked to a lot of the social workers and business owners and people living in Lawrence, because they had a homeless issue that they were trying to correct as well. I don't know if you've followed that one at all, heard much about it. But traditionally,
they had the issue in the back of Johnny's there, right?
Yeah,
by the river.
That really blew up over there as well.
Yeah.
Johnny's actually hired their own social worker to be there the entire time they had business opening on their back deck to deal with their problems. And it really helped a lot. And it's kind of interesting that the local business owner, Rick, hired his own social worker to do the work that the city should have been doing, as far as I can tell. And really made a big difference, not only for his patrons to be able to get in and out and keep business open, because he was about to close, as far as I understand. And he was actually help his patrons, help his business, and then also help the homeless people encampment out back there. But the general idea that I got talking to the social workers over there were, when you become homeless, you have about a 6-month window where you just need a break or two and you're back on your feet. And most people can't wait to get out of the scenario. They feel embarrassed. They feel shame. They just want to get done and get back to normal. And there's a great chance to pick somebody. Then they get to the, 6 months to 2 years, and you're kind of in the in-between area. And quite often at that point in time, you may have been a victim of crime. You may have been around more people that are using drugs and alcohol as a crutch. You may have even experimented with it at that point in time. And you need more than a break or two to get out of this thing. It's getting harder and tougher. And then after 2 years, most likely you probably accepted this, and you're not getting out of this scenario. And when they started pushing them into Lawrence into a smaller and smaller circle and pushing them into one tiny encampment, they saw those windows shrink across the board. And it became like a 3-month window before they became in the intermediate area where they have now been victimized more likely. And then by a year, you're quite often starting to accept this is the new norm. You've quite often started falling into harder situations.
So basically, the story here is if you send people together in an environment of homelessness, it's harder to get out of it.
It perpetuates it.
Okay.
It's kind of like that idea you're the sum of the 5 people you hang out with the most.
Yes.
And so it's really important. This was a bad
It's a great
plan.
psychological study.
Yes.
And that's why this was such a bad idea. I've got 30 seconds. What do you have coming up? I think you got an event on Thursday.
Yes, at Falcon Ridge, there's a meet and greet over there. I have some information on my Facebook page. I'll leave that up there. I'll make sure I get that posted if it's not already. And yes, you're welcome to come out and come meet me, hear my platform. We could love to talk to you about what's going on in your area and see what I can do to help you.
Well, Mark Hamill running for Johnson County Commission District 2. That's Shawnee and a lot of Lenexa. Looking to get some common sense on to that Johnson County Commission. Thank you, Mark. I appreciate it, man.
Thank you so much.